Hello everybody, my name is Rinzler here, back again for another video, and welcome back to the A Song of Ice and Fire character origin series. Today we're going to be discussing one of my personal favorite characters, Tyrion Lannister, a former Hand of the King and current Hand of the Queen in the TV show. But as always, this video is going to be talking about Tyrion Lannister in the books and not in the TV show. So if you're a Game of Thrones fanboy or fangirl, then I am sorry that I will be talking about the books and not the show. I'm not personally a big fan of the TV show, and I don't plan to make any videos on it. So this is just going to be about Tyrion and the A Song of Ice and Fire book series that the TV show is based on. So without further ado, let's discuss Tyrion Lannister. Tyrion Lannister was born in 273 AC to Joanna and Tywin Lannister. His mother died giving birth to him. His father and sister Cersei would always unfairly blame Tyrion for this and called him a murderer. It didn't help that he was a dwarf, which greatly embarrassed his ruthless father. He was nicknamed Lord Tywin's Bane for this reason. It didn't help that he also had a squashed-in face, ghostly pale blonde hair, and mismatched eyes. His appearance actually sparked stories that he was a literal monster, though this was far from the truth. Soon after his birth, Oberyn and Elia Martell came to Casterly Rock with their mother, with hopes of marrying either Oberyn to Cersei or Elia to Tyrion or both. Tywin, however, hoped to marry Jaime to Lysa Tully and Cersei to Prince Rhaegar Targaryen, so he declined both offers. He did offer for Elia to marry Tyrion, but the Martells took this for an insult and just left. Before they did, though, Elia and Oberyn really wanted to see if Tyrion was a monster and were disappointed that he was just a baby. Growing up, Tyrion's only real friend was his older brother Jaime, who was the only member of his direct family who treated him like a brother should, with love and respect. In his childhood, Tyrion enjoyed doing cartwheels down the stairs, but his father hated it and told him he already looked like a fool and shouldn't act like one too. He stopped cartwheeling after that. Tyrion got along very well with his traveling uncle Tyrion Lannister, who told Tyrion stories and gave him books about dragons. Tyrion was in love with dragons from an early age. He dreamed about them and enjoyed pretending that he was a lost Targaryen prince. He also lit fires in the cellar and would watch them burn for hours. Tyrion made up for his lack of physical strength with his wit. He was very smart from an early age, and his aunt Jenna would always encourage his genius, even if his father didn't see it. On one of his name days, Tyrion begged his uncle for an actual dragon, and Tywin viciously and purposely told him that they were all extinct. He cried himself to sleep that night. Tyrion hoped to become a Septon of the faith when he grew up, since the crown added a lot of height to the wearer, but his ambitions changed after he lost his virginity. His brother Jaime was visiting Tyrion in Lannisport when he came upon a crofter's daughter named Tysha, who was being attacked by bandits. Jaime rode them off while Tyrion comforted and fed the girl. The pair lost their virginities to each other after falling in love and got married in secret by a drunk Septon. Tyrion and Tysha were very happy together and spent some time secretly living in a cottage before the Septon ratted them out to Tywin, who brought him home. Jaime then told Tyrion that Tysha was a prostitute that he'd hired for him to lose his virginity to. Tywin then proved it by having the entire household guard rape her. Tysha, before making Tyrion rape her as well. Tyrion felt betrayed, and it didn't stop his guilt from this incident. He still felt extremely guilty for raping Tysha, but at the same time he felt incredibly betrayed. Each guard paid Tysha with a silver coin, except for Tyrion, who paid with a single gold coin because Lannisters were better than everyone else, at least in his father's state of mind. Tywin sent Tysha away, and Tyrion was never the same again. He spent the rest of his life drinking and whoring, trying to forget about love. According to Tyrion, so many people raped her that her hands were literally overflowing with coins. Tywin put Tyrion in charge of all the drains and cisterns of Casterly Rock to embarrass him, but Tyrion made the job his own. He claimed the shit never flowed better than when he was in charge of it. I like this tidbit of his story because it shows that Tyrion is literally the best at whatever he does. He eventually stops this job at an unknown time. In the current story, Tyrion is now in his mid-20s, when he accompanies the royal party to Winterfell, where King Robert Baratheon asks Eddard Stark to be his new Hand of the King. Instead of going back with them immediately, though, he travels to the Wall with his unlikely new friends of Yoren and Ned Stark's bastard son, Jon Snow. He gives Jon the advice of embracing his bastard status to become stronger. Tyrion is the first Lannister to ever visit the Wall, where he pisses off the top of it before beginning his journey back to King's Landing with Yoren. On the way, he rests at the end of the crossroads, where Ned Stark's wife, Catelyn Stark, orders Tyrion to be arrested. This is because she believes Tyrion armed the catspaw that was sent to assassinate her son Bran while he slept. In truth, Littlefinger did this to create heat between the Lannisters and the Starks. It worked. Catelyn wisely shouted that she was bringing Tyrion to Winterfell so that all the Lannister knights who were spying would make their way to the north, despite the fact that she was actually taking him to her sister Lysa in the Eyrie. The journey there is extremely perilous due to the mountain clans and dangerous terrain, but Tyrion survives the trip. Lysa accuses Tyrion of killing her husband, Jon Arryn, the former Hand of the King, on top of the stuff with Bran, and throws him into one of the sky cells as punishment. The cells are missing a wall that leads to a cliff hundreds of feet high. This is done to drive prisoners crazy. She hopes the cell will drive a confession out of Tyrion. When Tyrion confesses, though, he only confesses that he's innocent and demands a trial by combat to prove it to the gods and men. Lysa chooses Ser Vardis Egen to be her champion, while a common sellsword named Bronn volunteers to champion Tyrion, knowing he will get a lot of money for securing his safety. Ultimately, Bronn wins and Tyrion is forced to be set free. On their way out of the Vale, Tyrion and Bronn are surrounded by the mountain clans. Tyrion negotiates with them, promising the House Lannister will aid the mountain clans in taking over the Vale from House Arryn if they let them go, and agree to aid the Lannisters against the Starks. Tywin is in the Riverlands with Jaime fighting the Starks after Ned Stark was arrested and later executed by new King Joffrey's orders, since King Robert Baratheon had been unexpectedly killed during a boar hunt. Ned Stark's son, Robb Stark, rode south with an army, and Tywin was there to try and prevent the Starks from invading the Westerlands. The Mountain Clans agree to fight for the Lannisters as long as Tyrion himself leads them into battle. Tywin accepts this on his behalf, likely secretly hoping he'll die. Tyrion is sure that he will die, so he confides in a prostitute named Shae, who is given to him by Bronn, and who he soon falls in love with while playing a drinking game. He tries not to fall in love with her, but he just can't help it. The next day, he goes into battle. Unlike in the show, Tyrion fights bravely in battle and survives. The whole battle turns out to be a planned distraction so that Robb Stark could capture Jaime. After the battle, Tywin, who's been named Hand of the King by Joffrey, orders Tyrion to act as hand until he returns from war. He tells Tyrion not to take Shae with him, but he does it anyway. Tyrion goes to King's Landing, where he begins his time as Hand. Cersei and Joffrey constantly argued and butt heads with him. Tyrion did a lot to reform King's Landing, including arresting Janos Slynt for betraying Ned Stark, which led to his death, and sent Janos and his two sons to the Wall. He also rooted out Grand Maester Pycelle as Cersei's informant and had him arrested. Tyrion recognized the threats of King Renly and Stannis Baratheon, who both laid claims to the Iron Throne and were making their way to King's Landing. Stannis was arriving via the Blackwater Bay, while Renly was coming up the Rose Road. He was coming up a little bit slower, however, as he was getting married to Margaery Tyrell. Stannis, however, was already married, so he was almost to King's Landing. Tyrion ordered all of the city's ironworkers to stop making weapons and armor and focus their efforts on a long chain that would be used to close off Blackwater Bay and trap Stannis' ships inside. He also commanded the Pyromancers Guild to make lots of wildfire to burn the ships once trapped inside. Tyrion's plan mostly worked, but a lot of people still made it to land and overwhelmed the Lannisters. It didn't help that the Hound and King Joffrey both fled the battlefield, and the Lannister soldiers began to lose faith in themselves. Tyrion, however, gave a great speech and rallied the men up. Many of them screamed "half-man" as they charged into battle. Tyrion fought very bravely, but was almost killed by Sir Mandon Moore of the Kingsguard, who tried to kill him, but only succeeded in cutting off his nose before Mandon was stabbed in the back by Tyrion's own squire, Podrick Payne. It's unknown at this time who paid off Mandon Moore to try and kill Tyrion, however it's heavily implied that it's Cersei. When Tyrion wakes up from his injuries, he finds out He finds out that Tywin had arrived during the battle with all of House Tyrell after Renly's unexpected assassination. Tywin agreed for King Joffrey to marry Renly's widow Marjorie Tyrell. Tyrion was demoted after his father's return to Master of Coin, since Littlefinger went to the Vale to marry Lysa Arryn. Tyrion continued his relationship with Shae, but Varys discovered her presence in King's Landing and warned Tyrion to keep her more well hidden, so Tyrion had her become Sansa Stark's handservant. Ironically enough, Tywin soon after told Tyrion that he was being married to Sansa to become the new Lord of Winterfell. This could occur since Robb Stark was killed during the Red Wedding, and Bran and Rickon Stark were supposedly killed by Theon Greyjoy. Tyrion hated his marriage since Sansa and him didn't love each other and she was only half his age. He therefore refused to consummate this marriage. During Joffrey's wedding celebration, Tyrion was forced to be Joffrey's cupbearer to humiliate him. Joffrey, however, would soon die of poison in the wine. Tyrion was immediately accused and arrested for regicide. He failed to prove his innocence in a trial by words when Shae turned on him and lied, saying Tyrion and Sansa, who had escaped King's Landing with help from Ser Dantos Hollard, had conspired together to murder Joffrey. In the show, Shae loves Tyrion, and this is an even bigger betrayal, but in the books, Shae had never actually loved Tyrion and betrays him in an instant. Tyrion felt obviously very betrayed by this incident and once again promises to never love. Tyrion would then demand a trial by combat. Cersei swiftly chose the mountain that rides Sir Gregor Clegane to be her champion against Tyrion. The mountain is 8 feet tall with limbs the size of tree trunks and could cut horses in half, so people were obviously scared to be Tyrion's champion. Jaime declined to be champion since he just returned to King's Landing and had lost his sword hand, and Bronn also refused as he had been knighted after the Battle of the Blackwater and was married to Lady Lawless Stokeworth, and he didn't want to risk his status by championing Tyrion. Oberyn Martell, the Red Viper, finally agreed to fight with Tyrion since House Martell had wanted the mountain dead for years after he had killed Oberyn's sister Elia and her children, Rhaenys and Aegon VI, years before. Oberyn failed, so Tyrion was condemned to die. Jaime conspired with Varys, however, to have him freed. Before letting Tyrion escape, Jaime told him a secret that he'd been keeping for years. Tysha had never actually been a prostitute. She really was a crofter's daughter, like she said. Tywin had forced Jaime to lie to Tyrion about her status. Tyrion was so pissed that he punched Jaime, and knowing Joffrey was really Jaime's son, he falsely claimed to have killed Joffrey himself, and also tells him that Cersei has been having affairs with their cousin, Lancel Lannister, and Sir Osmond Kettleblack of the Kingsguard, and calls Jaime a fool. Tyrion then leaves, and he climbs up the side of a tower on a secret ladder and enters his father's chamber. There he discovers that Shae is in his father's bed and angrily strangles her to death with her own necklace. Tyrion then confronts his father in the bathroom and makes him confess the truth about Tysha. He then shot his crossbow in the chest of his father before fleeing via ship for Pentos. Tyrion was brought to Illyrio Mopatis' palace, where Tyrion planned to drink himself to death. Illyrio convinced Tyrion, however, to live and swear his allegiance to Daenerys Targaryen's claim to the Iron Throne. On his way to Meereen to meet up with Daenerys, Tyrion sailed with a small group under a false name, Yolo. Tyrion soon discovered the father-son pair, Griff and young Griff, are actually former Hand of the King, Lord Jon Connington, and Aegon VI, Prince Rhaegar's son, who survived when Varys switched him with another baby. Tyrion would convince Aegon to go to Westeros on his own instead of allying with Daenerys right away, and expect that Daenerys would soon join up with him instead of staying in Meereen. Tyrion would be kidnapped in a brothel in Volantis by Ser Jorah Mormont, who wanted to bring Tyrion to Daenerys to regain her favor that he'd lost after it was discovered he was a spy. Tyrion would nearly be killed by a dwarf girl named Penny, who wanted revenge since her twin brother Oppo had been killed after being mistaken for Tyrion. Tyrion, Penny, and Jorah, however, would soon be captured and sold into slavery. Penny and Tyrion would bond after Penny taught Tyrion how to mock joust while riding a puppy. She herself rode a pig, if you're wondering. During their joust in the fighting pits of Meereen, they were both to be eaten by lions after the joust was over. Daenerys, however, stopped this and made sure it didn't happen, at the very, very last second, by the way, as all the fans breathed lots of sighs of relief. Whew. Their master, however, would soon die of the bloody flux, but they would be captured again by Brown Ben Plum. Tyrion beat Plum in a game of Savas, where if Plum lost, he would have to rejoin Daenerys' cause. Tyrion would beat him, and so he was forced to comply. Penny then soon confessed her feelings for Tyrion with a kiss before he got angry at her and decided to storm out of the tent after remembering what happened with Tysha and Shay. There are a lot of theories about Tyrion Lannister, two in particular that seem the most credible to me. The first theory is that Tyrion might actually be a son of the Mad King Aerys Targaryen II and not Tywin Lannister. Right, the year before Tyrion was born, it's heavily implied that the Mad King raped Joanna while she was in King's Landing, and just a little over a year later, she gave birth to Tyrion. Since Tyrion was obviously a complicated birth that actually led to her death, and Tyrion having many deformities, it's highly likely that Tyrion is actually the Mad King's son. It would also explain his strikingly blonde hair color, as well as his mismatched eyes, as well as it would also explain his fascination with fire and dragons. This would be kind of ironic, as I mentioned earlier, Tyrion often dreamed about being a lost Targaryen prince, and it could actually turn out to be true. The second theory about Tyrion I'd like to talk about is the idea that the dwarf girl Penny might actually secretly be him and Tysha's daughter. My voice just cracked. So, the reason I believe this second theory is because Tyrion predicts that Penny is 19 years old, but Tyrion has been proven to be a bad judge of age in the past, as he suspected that Sansa Stark was 16 years old when she was actually only 13. Not to mention, because of Penny's lack of experience with love and relationships, as well as her outlook on the world, it seems a lot more likely that Penny is actually 12 or 13 and not 19. And since Tyrion is roughly 26 or 27 in the current story, and him and Tysha got married when Tyrion was 13, it seems highly likely that Penny could be Tyrion and Tysha's daughter because the timelines would match up. 13 or 14 years later would match up with Tyrion's 27 years of age as well as Penny's 13 years of age. Not to mention, it would also explain why Penny's brother Oppo was mistaken for Tyrion, besides just being a dwarf. If you're a dwarf and related to Tyrion, no wonder he was killed. In my opinion, I think this would be a great story development for Tyrion because, honestly, if anybody deserves a happy ending in these books, it's him. He's been bullied by his father and many other people for so many years, with so few people respecting him for the talents that he deserves to be praised for. He was an amazing Hand of the King, easily the best Hand of the King in the story so far, and he has more bravery and courage than almost anybody on the battlefield besides some other point of view characters. Tyrion is an absolutely inspirational character, and while he's not my favorite A Song of Ice and Fire character, that distinction goes to his brother Jaime if you're wondering, he's still a close second, and he's definitely my favorite character in the TV show, even if I don't like the show that much. So anyway, guys, thank you for watching this video all the way through. I know this was a longer one. So make sure to give this video a thumbs up, tell all your friends about the Rinzler Network, and share, I already said that. Make sure to give this video a comment and tell me what I could do better and what I'm already doing well, because that helps. It goes a long way. And I will see all you dudes and chicks in the next video.